We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And you're back with Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network. I remain your host, Mark Angelides, and we're continuing our fascinating conversation on elections and campaign communications with Liberty Nation's executive editor, Lisa K. Donna. Thanks for staying with us, Lisa. Now, let's talk really into the weeds about how communication is. So there's a purpose to communication, and that is usually to get a message across. What message is each candidate trying to send?
Well, if you want to look at messages, what you want to do is you want to look at TV commercials. And it's interesting, over the past 50 years, how messaging in campaigns has changed. Let's face it, the debates didn't really take off until 1960. And then, the business of television commercials was very important. By the way, you want to talk about another positive campaign, JFK. High hopes, I've got high hopes. Okay.
I can finish that one for you. It's
Happy days are here
song.
again.
Yeah.
High hopes. That was a very positive campaign too. But anyway, so I guess if you look down through the ages, communications really have changed a lot. Now where television commercials aren't nearly as important as they were. Radio commercials aren't nearly as important. Now everything's on the internet. Now the power of X. That's what I wanted to ask you. What do you think is the power of X this time around versus last time around? Because X has really changed a lot. And has that changed the communication environment, in your opinion?
Absolutely. So during the last election, X was the place where conservative ideas go to die because they were throttled. And it's the same across many platforms, many social media platforms. Conservative ideas, people who were bolstering for one particular candidate that wasn't Joe Biden, and very, very true in 2016 against Hillary Clinton. The conservative ideas, they went there and they died a death. But now that Elon Musk is at the helm of that particular unruly ship, what we're seeing is...
That's a good way of putting it too, unruly ship.
I'll use that in a title somewhere, I'm sure. What we're seeing is it's a battleground. But it's rather an enjoyable battleground for those of you who don't spend much time on X. There really is quite the competition between people pushing for their ideas, pushing for their sides. And the
you mean it's really a free speech forum?
I know, it's crazy, right?
Shocking.
Who'd have thought? Who'd have thunk it, as Winnie the Pooh once said. It's become a free speech battleground in all the best possible ways. But I think to finish up that point, Donald Trump's doing something very, very interesting here. He's, as far as I can tell, he's reimagining what it means to be a candidate in the 21st century. He was the candidate in 2016 who took social media by the throat and made it pay attention. And that's something that he's continued to do.
Well, I will say, in fairness, Romney tried to, but technologically they just couldn't get there. Their whole Orca thing just crashed and burned. He tried, but...
Pierre Despereaux was his foray, wasn't it? Was that his fake Twitter handle?
Something like that, yeah. But they understood the power of it. They just couldn't harness it properly, is what I'm saying. Yeah,
very true. It's it takes a different kind of mind to understand a different kind of technological battlefield, I think.
Right.
So how important do you think social media advertising versus television advertising is this year?
I think it's enormously important. And we're even seeing as a website, week to week, how things change, spending, on X versus spending on, say, Facebook versus spending on, it's a rapidly changing, not just social media, but the technology behind the social media is changing. And I think it's fueling a lot of interesting things, but I think the most powerful thing is X. And they really are, I think, the front runners in communication in this campaign, in my humble opinion. And I'm not on X all the time. So unlike you and a lot of your peers, you guys are on X more than us older people. But I really think that is the changing dynamic in communication. You have to pay attention to it. And it's very mercurial and it goes by really fast.
Very true. Although in my defense, I'm only on it for either work purposes or dog videos. In my defense there. Now there used to be YouTube for
I
the
thought it was
cat
SNL
video.
old skits, right?
Well, they're on there too, aren't they? The old SNL skits. If anybody wants to see a great takeoff of an SNL skit, watch last week's episode on Catch Up, or head to the the Radio America archives, and we have Tim Donner doing a marvelous George H.W. Bush take on there from an SNL skit, and that was quite fascinating.
Yes, those 1,000 points of light.
1,000 points of light. So yes, it's a changing battlefield. Now, depending on the result, do you think that this social media arena, do you think it will change? Like, for example, it's quite clear now that Donald Trump has the upper hand on social media. He knows how to use it better.
But she has the legacy media, and you can't discount the old gray lady, you know?
That's my question. Since the legacy media is in lockstep with the Democrats, and they really, I can't remember the last time the legacy media said a particularly positive thing about a Republican candidate. Do you think that people have just lost their faith in that in that form of media, and that's why there's a thing? Or is it two competing bodies, or is everybody moving away from the legacy media
Well,
because they know what their
you
answer
have to remember the legacy media is in the battle for its own existence.
Hmm.
And as they try to morph and change, if you notice, 3 years ago, you didn't see on the digital websites of the major papers, you didn't see a lot of video. Now you're confronted with, you go onto their digital sites and there's video there. Well, why is that? Because people like to watch video apparently on the internet. I'm not a big fan of it myself, but oodles and oodles of people like that. So they're in a battle for their own survival. So that taints everything, I think, from there on down. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Although it begs a further question, doesn't it? Before they were surviving when they were less openly partisan, then they went full partisan, and now they're dying a long, slow death in darkness.
Well, let's face it. I mean,
They end fighting out,
the
but
alternative media of which we are a part,
mm,
sprang up because there were no dissenting voices from the legacy media. And that's why the only reason people went to alternative media is because they weren't hearing or they weren't satisfied with the legacy media or the big box media or whatever, mainstream media, whatever you want to call it. That's what built the alternative media. They were just tired of the same old tune being played. It's like listening to the same song over and over 1,000 times at a certain point. You like don't want to hear Hotel California anymore.
I don't think I've ever reached that particular point, Lisa.
Oh, I have.
Um, no, I think you're probably right there, Lisa. It's almost as though the burgeoning social media, the alternative media, it's a monster of their own creation, and
Thank you.
it might just be the thing that puts it in its
If they
legacy.
offered alternative voices, I think there would be no alternative media, but they didn't. Everybody was marching in lockstep.
It's a what's the word
And
that
the last time I remember Americans wanting everybody to march in lockstep was during the Revolutionary War when they raised the flag, join or die. That was about it.
and let's hope we're not approaching that one again.
No.
Lisa K. Donna, thank you ever so much for taking the time to be with us and give us your wisdom, your words, and your wit. Very much appreciated.
It was great being here with you, Mark. I enjoyed it very much.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.